It's all about the Senate today, and joining us live to discuss this is Michaelia Cash, Senator and Minister for, what have we got?
Employment, skills, small and family business, or as I like to say, the backbone of the Australian economy.
You do indeed. But let's start with what happened last night, ensuring integrity getting voted down. Pauline Hanson says that she never gave you guys a guarantee about how she was going to vote. Is that true?
Well, certainly, when you look at the speeches that were given in the chamber by both herself, but in particular Malcolm Roberts, the fact that she did vote with us right up until the end. As a minister who has negotiated pieces of legislation through previous parliaments, you negotiate in good faith with the crossbench. We don't have the numbers in the Senate, as you know, and you rely on the assurances that you are given. That is what occurred. It is very disappointing, and, you know, Senator Hanson and in particular Senator Roberts now need to explain to the Australian people why they don't support accountability in registered organisations.
We've had both Senator Hanson and Senator Lambie tell us this morning that the government's taking them for granted, and that was a big part of why they didn't vote with you last night. Should you guys be trying harder with the crossbench?
Well, again, you know, you negotiate in good faith with people. I certainly did when I was a minister negotiating significant pieces of legislation through the parliament. We negotiated, I understand, in good faith. With the crossbench, we accepted amendments that were put forward, as you know, in particular by the Centre Alliance Party and by One Nation. Again, you rely on assurances, you negotiate in good faith, and it is very disappointing when this occurs and a piece of legislation doesn't get over the line. But certainly, you know, the government's position is very clear. We believe in accountability for registered organisations. We will continue to negotiate in good faith with the crossbench, and we will, in time, bring the legislation back before the parliament.
So if Pauline Hanson's saying one of the reasons she changed her mind was the fact that the Westpac story broke, and she doesn't think that the regulations are fair, that it's tougher on unions than they are on banks.
Yep.
Why not
so,
make it tougher
in the
on
first instance, they are two completely separate issues. If you look at a financial regime, the banking regime, they are already governed by regulators with extensive powers, and in this instance it's AUSTRAC, ASIC and APRA. In relation to what has occurred this week, it is absolutely appalling behaviour, as our Prime Minister has stated. AUSTRAC itself has already initiated civil penalty proceedings against Westpac. Brian Hartzer has stood down, as is, in fact, he's left, as is appropriate. ASIC and APRA are currently undertaking their own inquiries. But what I would say is this: if Senator Hanson and One Nation had the significant concerns that they say they have, they had every opportunity to raise that with the government, with Minister Porter. Whether or not she did, that is for Senator Hanson to raise. But again, as a government, you negotiate in good faith. You rely on assurances. Senator Hanson and One Nation, they did vote with us right up until the final vote. And again, we're committed to the legislation, and we will continue to work with the crossbench because we don't have the numbers in the Senate, and that is our reality.
Are you concerned that she might pull her support to repeal Medevac?
Oh, I think Senator Hanson has made it very, very clear in a number of statements that she supports the repeal of the Medevac law. Certainly, again, you work in good faith. She has stated that Minister Dutton, the Prime Minister, and herself and One Nation have been working very, very closely together now for a number of months. But certainly, based on the public statements that have been made by Senator Hanson, indeed as early as this morning, I understand, she has stated that she will support the government's position in relation to Medevac.
So when you were negotiating with that crossbench, you had a much bigger crossbench.
I did. I think I needed 12 votes every single time, and it was a completely different crossbench, obviously. Senator Lanholm, Senator Nick Xenophon, Senator Hinch, completely different crossbench.
So what do you think needs to be rejigged with your approach now? Because clearly
it's not so much. No, and I don't actually agree that something's gone wrong. Again, you negotiate in good faith, and people give you assurances. In a parliament where you don't have numbers in the Senate, and we haven't had the numbers for a very, very long time again, you negotiate in that good faith. You act on the assurances that you were given. Centre Alliance, we agreed with them a number of amendments, and on the basis of those amendments going through, they agreed to support the legislation, which they did last night. Certainly in relation to One Nation, we agreed with them a number of amendments. Those amendments were acted on accordingly, and then Pauline and Malcolm, or Senator Hanson and Senator Roberts, determined that despite the speeches they gave in the Senate, and I'd ask anyone, have a look at Malcolm Roberts' speech. Look at what he said in closing. There was no indication to the government that they would change their mind. If they had issues, they could have raised them with the government. But again, we will continue to negotiate in good faith because we stand behind the legislation and we stand behind accountability for registered organisations, whom I might just remind the public, the tax-paying public, they have a very privileged status under the Registered Organisations Act. They don't pay tax.
If we move on to your portfolio in particular, you had the skills COAG last week.
We did, absolutely.
And you've been trying to consolidate the training certification to make it a uniform approach across the states.
Look, that's it. So the government took a very clear policy to the election, and in fact it was one that we'd funded in the budget with in excess of a $500 million commitment towards ensuring that Australians have the skills that industry requires. I'm really pleased. I've now had 2 ministerial meetings with my state and territory counterparts. And that, of course, means across political parties, both Liberal, Labor, in some of the states. And I'm really pleased that in both of those meetings we have been able to come to an agreement. And certainly the First Ministers at COAG have also made it very clear to their skills ministers that they want reform of the system. The system as it currently stands does not address the needs that Australia itself needs, our economy needs, in relation to delivering the skills that industry are telling us that they require. All of the states and territories, along with the Commonwealth, agree that we need reform to the system. We are working collaboratively together, and certainly in relation to both of my COAG skills ministers' meetings, I am really pleased that we have come to unanimous agreement as to the way forward, and we will now continue to proceed down that path.
So what is the actual outcome out of that?
The outcome is to ensure that the system that we have is more responsive to the skills needs of industry. At the moment, when you look at how we develop a training package in Australia, it can take absolutely years, and often by the time the skills ministers are ticking off on the particular qualification, it is redundant. That does not serve Australians well. But also, just in terms of the actual labour market analysis, the labour market analysis that we have at the moment to determine what the skills requirements are actually is one that looks backwards. How does that work? So again, it is about addressing the fundamentals of the system, but also ensuring the money that is put in by both the states, the territories and the Commonwealth, because it is a significant amount of money every year, billions of dollars, again, needs to go to where the skills needs actually are.
So, just so I'm clear, you've agreed on the actual uniform approach or a plan to have a uniform approach?
We've agreed on steps to take towards that uniform approach, but in particular looking at how we analyse the labour market to determine where the skills needs are. We're looking at how the system could be funded going forward. We also have a Productivity Commission review of the funding agreement between the states and the territories. We have also agreed that we need to speed up, in layman's terms, the way we approach training packages and skills qualifications, but we also have that fundamental agreement that the system needs to better suit the demands of both industry and the people who are undertaking a vet qualification, because a lot of people don't understand 31 out of the top 50 earning occupations, they require a vet pathway. Vocational education and training in Australia is a fantastic career opportunity for Australians, and as a government we are committed to ensuring that it is literally seen as good as a university degree, if not better as the skills minister.
Well, certainly feel the enthusiasm. Michaelia Cash, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.